Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. Plus, it's Saturday Night Live with me, Mark Goldbridge, on the United Stand. It's also the middle of the international break. My main intention tonight was actually just to open the doors. Well, not burp. I did open the doors in a way. I've been out for some Saturday night dinner. But yeah, I wanted tonight to sort of ask me anything, open the doors, Q&A, of course, that sort of thing. But we have got some topical stuff to get through before, which I wasn't expecting. And I want to say big shout out to Kenneth Gator, who has joined our members club. Thank you very much for getting your badge in. So yeah, get your questions in tonight. Saturday night show, 8 o'clock. You drive the show as per usual. But also, just want to fly through some stuff early doors, which is topical stuff coming in. I don't really want to be talking about the sale of Manchester United, although we do have a little bit of an update on that. I want to start off with Bruno Fernandes. I completely missed this. I know there was a conversation with Bruno yesterday. I don't know whether this is from yesterday or whether he's done it today, but I completely missed this. So, Man United captain Bruno Fernandes spoke on transfer links to Saudi. This is what he said. It's an impossible scenario to imagine. I have no idea if there's any truth in it. I like to enjoy the moment, and for me, the most important thing is representing the national team. It's a huge source of pride. I don't even know if I'll play tomorrow, let alone if I'll be playing outside Manchester a year from now. It's not something that worries me. I'm happy where I am. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stayed. Honestly, it's not something that even crosses my mind. And that was to do with links to Saudi. But the interesting thing is I've got no idea if there's any truth in it. I just play for the now. I don't think about the future. And I certainly hadn't heard that yesterday. And having heard it today, I sort of think, well, it is a sort of admission that, you know, a little bit like Man United's future, his future is not set in stone. And he's certainly not closing the door on a move next summer, is he? I think he closed the door on the move last summer, but I don't think he's closing it on a move next summer. And I think that some people maybe think that he is, but I don't think he is. And, you know, obviously for him, his priority is to play for Portugal. And in a year's time, he doesn't know whether he'll be in Manchester or not. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Also, just a couple of other bits as well. What was the other thing? Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire is ready to snub a huge contract offers from Saudi if Man United offer him a new deal. He's out of contract in June and has become a target of Saudi outfits like Al Nassr and Al Ettifaq. However, he would prefer to stay at Manchester United if they give him the contract. However, Saudi could see him land a deal worth 500 grand a week. You're going to get bloody 500 grand a week at Man United, is he? I think 100 grand a week top there would be what we'd be talking about. And then the update on the sale is actually coming in via the Times. Charlotte Dunker in the Times is saying this. All sources close to Man United are saying it's news to them about a sale. Sources close to the Ineos regime and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are saying they don't believe it to be true. Obviously, Sir Jim has the 30% stake. That doesn't mean that the Glazers aren't going to sell anyway. I think for the right price, they definitely would. And there's a clause within Radcliffe's agreement when he bought the club that if the right offer came in for a $33 a share, the Glazers could sell the whole club, not just their proportion of it, and Radcliffe would be bought out of it as well. There is potential that the Glazers could sell the entire club, but at the minute, this seems a strange one with this news and hype by the one tweet. So, you know, I think that's sort of where we are. I've got to be honest, in relation to the sale, I think it's been spoken about enough. And if we don't get any further development on it, I'm sort of tired with it, to be honest with you. Island Boy, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Right, it's Saturday night. I've been out for a meal. I've had a glass of wine. I've still got another glass there. Chuck your questions in. Let's see how the show goes. One thing I did want to just observe in a footballing sense is, just to throw this in, I think there's a lot of doom and gloom. I don't think, you know, United are on the trajectory to anything like the success we would like with this regime. I don't think 10th in the league after 7 games is particularly good. And I certainly don't think Ruben Amorim is particularly safe just because he beat a newly promoted team. But I do think that there are certain aspects that could hint at a better time. We've spoken about Lemens and Sesko after the Sunderland game, and I think they both played well. But what I have noticed is that we are going more direct. And I mentioned something on the morning show about how United, you know, Rasmus goes to Napoli and they're moving the ball quicker and it will suit a striker. I think I have started to notice that a little bit with United. We look at the red card against Chelsea, which is a long ball from Bienda that's flicked on by Sesko. We did do it against Sunderland, and it led to an injury for a Sunderland player. So it is quite encouraging that with Sesko, we are seeing a more direct approach from Man United. Now, obviously, I don't want us to go route one, but I quite like the idea that we move the ball quicker into our striker, because that's something we failed to do for many a year. So I do think that is a positive. Jonathan Matthews says, surely 33 a share would only be for Radcliffe percentage. The rest would be at fair market value. So not 5.2 billion, maybe 4 to get them out, says Jonathan Matthews. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, look, genuinely, in relation to the sale of Manchester United, I know a lot of people are very interested in that, but, you know, I'd rather talk about, you know, lots of other things, because I just think that I am a professional cynic when it comes to the ownership of Man United. I genuinely would love to sit here and say I think that there's an opportunity for the Glazers to sell. I think now is the time to sell. I think you know, as I've said to you a few times, I don't think things are going to get any better at Man United, but I don't think the Glazers really understand football anyway, and they're greedy. So they'll probably think, let's hold on for a little bit longer. But I personally think things could get a lot worse. And now is the time to sell if you've got a buyer. You know, I will say something a little bit controversial, and I don't really care, because, you know, sometimes I do say things and people don't agree with me. I watched the interview with Sir Jim Radcliffe with the Times. I think it was Business Times or something like that. Where he mentioned about the 3 years and stuff. And he was asked a whole raft of questions about, you know, his general stance. So Jim Radcliffe is in Monaco. He lives in Monaco because he doesn't like the tax regime in the UK. So, you know, he is obviously a local lad, a self-made billionaire. But he basically said that, and I need to get this right, in the UK, it's a bit of a busted... He didn't say this, but like a lot of people feel that... I mean, you might feel it about your country, but a lot of people in the UK feel it's a busted flush. It's shit. The last government did a terrible job, and this one's not doing much better. And so Jim Radcliffe basically said, you've got high taxes, high crime, and high immigration. And, you know, that's his stance on the UK. And I was listening to his interview, and I don't do politics. And, you know, there's certain aspects of that you could say are political. But I've said this before about Sir Jim Radcliffe. Like, he's not the most uninteresting person to watch and listen to. I just don't think he understands football. I think the biggest weakness is he's quite an interesting person to listen to. And he does make points that I mean, I'd certainly agree with him on high crime. And I certainly agree with him on the government not doing what it needs to do in this country. But he's not the worst person in the world, Sir Jim Radcliffe. Like, I think there are aspects of Sir Jim Radcliffe that I want to be quite even-handed here and say, I've listened to a few interviews with him, and there's certainly something about him that's quite listenable. That's a terrible word. But, like, you know, I do find him quite interesting to listen to. I don't, like, I can watch a 10-minute interview and it will fly by and I don't want to switch it off. But, unfortunately, he's the guy that's rebuilding Man United. And that, he's obviously a brilliant businessman. And he's obviously got some very interesting views on the UK. And I agree with him on some aspects, not all of it. But I don't dislike the guy. I think it comes across as dislike because I'm so desperate for Manchester United to be successful, and he did get in bed with the Glazers, and therefore he's an enemy of the club in my mind. But I've got to put my hands up and say, I've never met the guy, and when I listen to him in interviews, as I've said to you before, I do find him quite compelling. But I just don't trust him in relation to football and the decisions that need to be made as a football team. On business, he's probably quite good, but this is a football team, and I think that's where it falls down for me. Connor says, what a horrible message this club continues to send. 1 second it's Radcliffe saying it's not a light switch, and then the next day the club's for sale, which is exactly a light switch change. Connor, thanks for your super chat. I personally do not think that we are going to get the sale that we want. That's my stance. I completely agree that it could be happening, and I completely agree that it would be a good time to do it, but I just don't think we're going to get that lucky. I really, really don't. I've had another super chat here from Constantine. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Mark. Do you feel our current... Well, get your questions in. Like, it's definitely just Saturday night and chill. Hi, Mark. Do you feel our current squad is lacking leaders? I grew up in a day where we had Beckham, Roy Keane, Vidic walking out of the tunnel. These players lose and pretend nothing has happened. No accountability. Look, if you are 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16... 17 and you've got aspirations to be a top level footballer and you're a Man United fan, for the love of God, go and watch clips of Roy Keane. That's what the fans love. I got sent something today of Roy Keane, 2 minutes of Roy Keane, and I was just like, I know everyone knows Roy Keane's a legend, and I know everyone loves Roy Keane and his attitude, but God, we were blessed having that in our team for the period of time that we did. I mean, you had no concerns. If he was in the team, you had no concerns. I mean, you'd probably question yourself more than you would him. His application to the cause was second to none. And you're absolutely right. These days, we don't know whether these players are going to turn up or not. And a player like Roy Keane, he just turns up. And it's, it is a shame how it ended with him slim picking. But yeah, I was laughing as well about the tunnel incident with Vieira. Obviously, he comes down the tunnel and starts having a go at Vieira. But I saw him the other day on the overlap, and he was talking to Ian Wright about Alan Shearer, and he was going, no, he's not a nice guy. He's sneaky. I don't like sneaky guys. And it's the same with Vieira. He's there like, Vieira there having a go at Neville. Have a go at me. Have a go at me. What are you having a go at input? And it's like he's just straight down the road. Straight down the road. I mean, I've never met Roy Keane. I'd love to meet him, but what a player he was. And I just think if you want to, some of you have got your whole futures ahead of you. Some of you might end up being footballers. I wouldn't have role models like your Mal. I'd have role models like Roy Keane. I think that's what we're missing from the game. I mean, it was always going to happen because they've tried to outlaw tackling, but the players I always loved the most were people like Roy Keane, Paul Ince. I didn't like Steven Gerrard, but it's a similar type of player. The John Terrys, the Man Utd. I like the people who, crunch into a tackle. They're the players that, we have it a little bit with Martinez now. These are the players that you feel most in touch with on, as a fan. And, yeah. I mean, I'd love a player like that back at Man United. And, yeah, we don't have accountability now. There's not a player anywhere near that type of thing. And to be fair, David Beckham did it as well. David Beckham had a wand of a right foot, but he got stuck in. Scholes got stuck in. Giggs got stuck in. Everybody got stuck in. I mean, I've said it to you before. Mark Hughes, what a player. I know he gets the piss taken out of him a little bit because, as a manager, he's not been, he's been a bit of a thorn in our side at times. But as a player, God, what a talent. But also, absolutely gave everything in a shirt. And it's a shame that's almost a skill now. It used to be a given, and now it's a skill. Players that actually bleed for the shirt for 90 minutes. It's a rarity. It's Rooney as well, yeah. Ronaldo, there was loads of players. Carrick, they all did it. Jonathan Matthews says, surely a 33... okay, I've done that one, haven't I, before? Tom McBride says, who is the worst player you've ever seen play for Man United? Not the biggest flop, the worst player. Marnik Vermej, for me, played once. You know what? There will be worse players, but I think the one I went to Old Trafford, we played... I can't remember whether we were playing Southampton or Crystal Palace. It was one of Mourinho's last games. I think it was like November time. And I went to Old Trafford and they played Southampton or Crystal Palace. I think it might have been Palace. And I was quite close to the touchline. And I was watching Alexis Sanchez. And he was shit. He was so shit. And I just don't know what went wrong with him. Like, he was Arsenal's best player. He was one of the best players in the Premier League. And he came to United and he was fucking shit. Like, he's just so slow as well. Rubbish. Absolute shit. So, look, I don't think he's the worst signing we've ever made, but I do think that sometimes you buy a player at that level and they're nowhere near it, they can end up being the worst player. Yeah. But look, we have had some right rubbish as well. Prunier was crap. Jemba was crap. Cleverson wasn't very good. Oberton, Beppe. There's been plenty. Absolutely plenty. Mark, the reason why that is a skill is because it's a reflection of the course society has taken. People no longer want to dig in and push to the limits, says Swami. Yeah, look, I mean, this is not an after show. I quite enjoyed the after show last night, talking about the degradation of society, the increase in crime, and all anybody wants to do is please people's opinions instead of actually policing the streets, which is a fucking joke. But I think you are right. I remember Paul Ince saying this on the show a few years ago. The reason there's no Roy Keanes anymore, Paul Ince's anymore, Brian Robson's anymore, Stephen Gerrard's anymore, is because we don't have that society anymore, whereby you are brought up in a world where nothing's given to you on a plate. You have to work for it, and you earn it. The modern footballer, with all due respect, look at JJ in the youth team. He's 14, and people are talking about him being a superstar, and United are begging him to stay. That doesn't mean he's not going to be a world-class player, but where is this like sort of adversity and work ethic in modern society? It's not really there anymore, is it? When I was growing up, you got a present for Christmas, you got money for your birthday. That's what you got. There was nothing in between. You didn't get home from school on a Friday and you've got a bloody Power Ranger or a bloody Star Wars figure. No, you get it at Christmas, or you get money for your birthday, and then you go without for the rest of the time. Not everybody had Sky TV. Not everyone had a flat screen TV. Not everyone had a computer. It was a different world that we grew up in, and I think that made you hungry, and it made you appreciate hard work, and it made you value money. I don't see many of these people. I mean, I'm in my 40s. I work obviously in an industry where there's quite people of different age, and being stereotypical, I think the younger generation, occasionally you come across it, but not stereotypically. It's a different type of work ethic because the world has changed. I blame X Factor and Simon Cowell because and Big Brother, they basically made TV that anybody can do anything. I think you need talent and hard work. Are we going to talk about the share insider trading? It says M. Parker. I don't know what we're meant to be talking about that, but let us know. Beppe was the worst, couldn't cross his toes, says Tavia. Oh no, it's not hard. It's not hard to cross your toes, to be honest. Thoughts on Invert the Wings all-time Premier League 11? Oh, mate, this will make you laugh. This will make you laugh, actually. This is a perfect Saturday night conversation. So I don't really get on social media as much, and I don't post as much as I used to. I've hit 1 million followers on X. I'm retiring, but every now and again I'm still on there, and I'll see something and I think, oh my god. So there was this X account that basically has had 4.3 million views, but not in his post has had 4.5 million views, and obviously that's brilliant, but he's got it because his all-time Premier League 11 is Cech, Walker, Van Dijk, Terry, Cole, Rodri, De Bruyne, Kante, Salah, Kane, and Henry. The account is called Invert the Wing. So I quote tweeted it and basically said, invert the wing. I think you've inverted your head up your arse, pal. Not one Man United player in an all-time 11. Funnily enough, a few people replied with, why do you have to be so abusive? Yeah, it's not abuse. I think this person has got their head up their arse if they're not putting a Man United player up there. But as I say, people try and police things that don't need policing. All-time 11 without a Man United player in it is hilarious, considering Man United have won more than half of the Premier League seasons that we've had. So Harry Kane is not all-time striker in the Premier League anyway. And I wouldn't claim that for Man United, but Rooney would be ahead of Harry Kane. Ryan Giggs has to be in there. Has to be in there. Henry's not a left winger, so you can shove that up your arse as well with your head. A front three of Salah, Kane and Henry as an all-timer. Kiss my big, fat, hairy arse. Henry's not a winger. Ronaldo is better than Salah. Rooney has to be in there as well. Midfield, Rodri, De Bruyne and Kante. Go and take your face for a shit. Roy Keane's got to be in there. You could easily get Paul Scholes in there. The fact that they don't even have Gerrard in there is a laugh as well. I personally think I'm a massive fan of Beckham, so he would be in there. In the defence, Van Dijk and Terry. I can live with John Terry, but you can kiss my arse again if you're not putting Vidic in there or even Rio. As for Kyle Walker, go fuck yourself. Dennis Irwin or Gary Neville every day of the week. Ashley Cole I can live with. Petr Cech in goal. Fuck off. Absolutely fuck off. Absolutely get stuffed. Peter Schmeichel easily over him. Man United, in any all-time Premier League 11, even if you're anti-United, you'd put 2 or 3 in. I personally would put 4 or 5 in. So yeah, very good comment there. Absolute nonsense. But in fairness, it's either really good rage bait or they really have inverted their head up their arse. VAR, look, Dinky says, Mark, hurting feelings tonight. I very rarely do a Q&A. I very rarely do it these days. I very rarely do ask me anything. So it's a great opportunity if you're here with us live to ask me. I'll answer it. I couldn't give a toss. VAR has ruined the Scholes Keane type step in, says Alan. Alan. I don't know why I'm going a bit French tonight. Peter, Alan, Peter. I think there is an interesting question. You know, why are there no Roy Keanes and Steven Gerrards and Paul Inces and Brian Robsons anymore in football? I think there are. I think you can still be that. Roy Keane was actually a very good footballer, and so was Brian Robson, and so was Steven Gerrard. Obviously, you can still be an absolute engine. I think it's mentality more than the game outlawing them. Casemiro likes a tackle. He's not sent off every week. I just don't think there's many of them personalities around anymore. I always use this story, but Gary Neville, David Beckham, they would have been cleaning the boots of Mark Hughes and Brian McClare. These days, if you're 15, 16, someone's cleaning your boots, someone's washing your car, and I think it changes you. It's very hard to be. It's almost a working class mentality, isn't it? Working class, you come from a background where you've had to work to get where you are, and you appreciate that journey, and you don't disrespect the situation where you're at the top of the mountain, whereas people don't have that journey anymore. Favourite Little Britain scene, says Papa. I'm not really a big fan of Little Britain. I preferred Come Fly With Me. Thoughts on digital ID, mate, says KS. I'll be honest, it's not really hit my world. I'd need a little bit more information on what it's all about. What kind of centre midfielder do we need? I think we need a deep playmaker and destroyer who had better one season, Eric Ten Hag or Jose. Eric Ten Hag for me, as he showed more promise, as Xhaka. Well, Jose's the manager we never should have sacked, so I'd say Jose. I personally think if we could have Casemiro at 26, we'd be fine in our midfield. So I think that sort of covers that one off as well. I hope you're doing well. Island Boy says, I think the Glazers are thinking of selling with the projections of the US economy and how up and down the club has been. Question is, are all the siblings on board to sell and give up their monthly ATM? Sir Jim matters not. I don't like the word ATM because it doesn't mean the same thing to me as I think it does to you. But anyway, look, I don't know. I can't say anything more about the sale than what we already know. We're dealing with the family that have destroyed this football club over the last 20 years. They've systematically taken Manchester United from one of the best clubs in England and in Europe to, you know, a mid-table club. They've ruined the stadium. They've piled debt on us. So these are not people that I can understand when it comes to football or caring for this football club. So I can't second guess that they're going to do what they should do. But I genuinely think that there's not much more they can do to this football club. And they certainly can't take us back to where we need to be. I think people forget this about this current regime. Some people believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe can take us back to the top. And I almost sit there and smile in a sadistic way, because I go, Sir Jim Ratcliffe can't take us anywhere because he's not driving the car. It's not even his car. Sir Jim Ratcliffe can't go anywhere without the Glazers telling him to. And the Glazers categorically cannot take us back to the top of football. They just can't. So while they're here, we won't succeed. And Sir Jim can do as many interviews as he likes, but he is basically just a glorified CEO. Yes, he owns 30% of the club, but he doesn't own the majority. He doesn't have the final say. He is basically a glorified CEO. And while the Glazers are here, I don't see any way back for Manchester United. But I don't trust that they're going to sell, because I just don't trust them to do anything that's good for Manchester United. I'd go with the opposite. Maverick, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for that. Grass, I'm not going to read that because I think it's something rude. Thanks for the answer to the question, Alan. You're very, very welcome. And Yuriam said, Yuriam, welcome to the Members Club. And Rajav said, would a midfield two of Wharton and Anderson work? I saw something today. Right, let me... I don't actually know how quick I can do this, but I was looking at something yesterday and it was absolutely unbelievable. And I'm thinking I probably can do it. It's just going to take me a moment to do it. So let me answer another question. United and Precious are comparable. We got no cups, says Papa. And Football Insight says, I recently started my YouTube channel all because of you. You're such an inspiration to me. I look up to you all the way from South Africa. Well, good luck with it, Football Insights. Hope you're doing well. Uriam says, when you started the channel, did you think 10 years later Man United would be in the position we are today? How much the club has fallen? No, I didn't, because I think that when Sir Alex Ferguson walked out to that Guard of Honour, you know, back in 2013, if somebody'd said to me 12 years later, you won't even have a title race. 12 years later, for 10 of those years, or for most of that time, you wouldn't even play good football. I'd have said, what am I supposed to do with the next 12 years of my life? You know, what happens then? You know, how can this be? But, you know, so when we started the United stand, if you'd said to me, you know, 10 years, United are going to get worse, I mean, I wouldn't have believed it really, but we are where we are. And I think that we're probably, as I've said before, if you want the honest opinion of me, we're probably further away than we have been. I mean, as I said a few weeks ago, I think the best way of putting this is that I've never been into a season in my life, really, because I think when the Premier League started, I was sort of 11, 12 years of age, and wasn't thinking about football in the way that I'm about to say now. So certainly in the Premier League era, I've never had the start to a season like this year where I've not even put us in the top four. And that to me is incredible, to not even put Man United in the top four. This is the first year I've done that. So, I mean, by the rules of logic, this has to be the lowest point. It might not be yours. I accept it might not be yours, but from my point of view, this is the first time I've genuinely thought we won't get top four. Even last season with Ten Hag, I was like, we've got to get top four, because the year before we did. Every year with Ollie, I was like, we've got to get top four. This is the first year I've looked at it and gone, don't actually think we'll get top four. And that's quite scary, really. So you could argue that this is the lowest point, really. Right, just going back to that question. I want to just, I want to do it for this season. So this is really interesting. I was looking at this yesterday. I mean, you might not find it as interesting as me, but I really do. So let's say, so all the midfielders in the Premier League at the moment who've played a minimum of 300 minutes. So 300 minutes is what? Three games and half an hour? Passes per 90. This will blow your bloody mind. Passes per 90 in the Premier League this season for midfielders. Guess who's number one? Elliot Anderson. 70 passes per 90. He's ahead of Gonçalves at Man City. He's ahead of Arsenal. He's ahead of Declan Rice. He's ahead of Gravenberch. He's ahead of Caicedo. He's ahead of Bruno. 69 passes per 90 for Elliot Anderson, with a pass accuracy of 90%, which is very, very good. Now, forward passes per 90, he's number one. 21 forward passes per 90. Second place is Szoboszlai at Liverpool. Then you've got Alexis McAllister, Zubimendi, which is incredible. Accurate forward passes per 90. He does 80% of those. Successful defensive actions is actually Sean Longstaff, not Elliot Anderson. There was something else he was good at as well. Let's have a look at interceptions per 90. Maybe it was that. Xhaka is number one for that. Yeah, I mean, sometimes with interceptions, you've got to be very careful that a lot of shit teams are going to be more busy. What was it? Offensive duels, maybe that was it. God, where are you? There we are. Yeah, offensive duels per 90, he's fourth, Elliot Anderson. And offensive duels is winning the ball back high at the pitch, of course. So his actual stats, Elliot Anderson, and I'm not big on stats, but I never would have thought he would be playing more forward passes and more general passes than anybody in the league by a very, very long way. That's incredible to me. Incredible. I mean, I've seen him play, but I never would have thought he'd be number one for forward passes and general passes in the Premier League, especially the way Forest has played traditionally under Nuno. So I think he's a very interesting profile of player. So to answer your question, Wharton and Anderson, he has had a bit of a glow up, Anderson, over he's a bit of a modern phenomenon, but he's in that England team. You know, he's bypassed Wharton and everybody else. I think he's an interesting profile of player, and I certainly don't think we'll get Wharton. I think he'll end up at Palace. Elliot Anderson's only 22. He'll be 23 in November, so he's a very interesting player. But Newcastle want to take him back, apparently. Where was he born? Whitley Bay. Absolutely no idea. Whitley Bay. I've heard of it. I mean, I'm going to say it's near Norwich. It's near Newcastle. Yeah. So he probably would like to go back to Newcastle because he is a Geordie. We used to have world-class bench players that were happy to be part of the team. Now everyone wants to be the main man. Mainu and Xerxes should just keep on working hard. It's a team sport, says Marlowe. Yes and no. Yes and no. I think that, you know, I'm not going to be a hypocrite on this. What's that? I'm not going to be a hypocrite on this. I think that in the case of, if I was Mainu, and I've seen his pictures again on Instagram, working hard, it's the second international break. It reminds me a bit of Rashford, you know, where you're not in the team and all you can do is post training pictures of working hard. You know, what more can he do? He's working hard in training. He's still not getting minutes. I think people say, you know, you say it's a team sport, work hard. He's already working hard. And I'm sure Xerxes is working hard. The squad is too big for what we've got on offer. It's not. The squad's not good enough. The squad's not good enough, but it's too big. We've got no Carabao Cup. We've got no Europe, and that squad's too big. It's not good enough, and it's also too big. So, you know, they just can't get game time. You've got every right to knock on the door, in my opinion. Christian's watching Hull KR versus Wigan. We could do with the players having the same attitude, taking no for an answer and work as a team till the end. He's watching rugby league, if you want someone to translate it. I don't watch rugby league, but I know that that's Hull against Wigan will definitely be rugby league. Daniel Whitaker says, random question. Do you agree that Raya looks like a character from League of Gentlemen? I've never watched League of Gentlemen, Daniel, so... but I can see what you mean. When I think of League of Gentlemen, I get a picture of the people. Yeah, you make an interesting point. Yeah. I tell you what, I'm loving the show. Ask me anything for these last 20 minutes. Let's go. Tom McBride, with a super chat, says, would you rather get relegated but get a huge financial Saudi takeover kissing goodbye to Glinios, or win the league and everything stays the same? Mate, I'd rather get relegated, get a huge financial Saudi takeover and kiss a cow's arse than stick with the Glinios. So, look, I don't like the idea of, you know, I don't like the... I think there was... I respected it. Well, I didn't. I understood it, but I don't like it. I think nobody was ever going to admit it, but I think Zippy over Bungle every day of the week, fish and chips. I definitely think going into that Sunderland game, there was... I could name people who wanted us to lose. Very good actors, but they definitely wanted us to lose because they'd been way too vocal. They'd gone hammer him out way too early. They were being quite vicious about it. They definitely would have wanted us to lose that game. And I sort of get it, because if you want the manager to go, you might look at it and go, well, short-term pain, long-term gain. I'd rather us lose to Sunderland and get rid of Amrim than carry on. I do get that, but I can't do it. I wouldn't say I'd never do it. Never say never, but I don't like... I think it's a slippery slope to want your team to lose, because if you've done it once, you can do it again. But having said that, I do believe in short-term pain, long-term gain. Sometimes, you know, you give up crisps to get fit. You know? Sometimes you give up something you enjoy, knowing that you'll be better in the long run. And I think that I don't enjoy the Glazers, and I definitely give them up. Do you have any regrets in your life, says Ashir? That's quite a big question. I don't have regrets, but I know I've made mistakes. Yeah. I don't believe in regrets because I think, you know, everyone makes mistakes, and we can all acknowledge we've made a mistake, but we can't do anything about them. We can only learn from them. And I think regrets don't work because I think you're better off acknowledging you made the mistake rather than regrets, because what you can't do anything about it. And, you know, it's like in football. You can't live tomorrow and you can't live yesterday. You have to live in the day. And I just think if you spend your time focused on the past, you neglect today. And if you spend your time focused on tomorrow, you also waste today. And I think that's the sort of way to live. I understand why people do have regrets, but I just think it's a better way to say I made a mistake and acknowledge the mistake. Because you can't really do anything about it, really. You know, there's plenty of times where I've made a decision, took a wrong turn, and you think, oh, God. But I can't change it now. I've took that turn, you know? I remember like loads of times doing things and going, shit, why did I do that? But I've done it. Look, Sometimes you play a back pass to your goalkeeper, you don't put enough weight on it, it doesn't make it to the goalkeeper, the striker slips in, goes around the goalkeeper, scores a goal. Of course I regret playing the pass, but it's already been done. I've made a mistake. Put your hands up, get the ball, go back to the halfway line, you go again. If he blows the whistle and you lose, you go up and you face up and you say, look, I fucked up. I fucked up, you know. It's the finances, says Rogine. Looking out on the next star because you didn't treat him like a big shot can be detrimental to a club. Emily Derry says the Glazers most likely have multiple sources of income, so I reckon that the question may be whether to you United revenue is worth the aggro for them. Monday will likely be when we get significant news. Could be tomorrow, Emily. Sometimes Sunday papers get something. I do acknowledge a lot of the comments on the show this morning, by the way. A lot of people were saying, you know, the upturn in the share price isn't significant enough for it to be considered manipulation of the markets. You know, I'll bow down to people with better knowledge than me, but the reality is the share price has gone up in the last 48 hours, and it's not because we're 10th in the league. So whether it's gone up by a small percent or whatever, it's still gone up because of this. Diane Keating is dead. Oh, that's a real shame. That is a shame. Maverick, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for that. So, look, maybe we will get something on Monday. Maybe we won't. I think we're at that time now where, well, if you're of a certain age like me, Diane Keating or Diane Keaton. No, she has died, yeah. Father of the Bride, Godfather. I'll have a read about that later. If you come in as a new owner, do you keep hammering, says Visco? If I came in as a new owner, would I keep hammering? Good question. Honest answer, real talk. I don't, you know what? Can I just be completely honest? If I'm in charge of Man United and I'm going to clear the debt and I'm going to put the money in, do I keep Ruben Amorim? It's not an easy yes. It's not an easy it's not an easy yes. I think for me, it's probably what I said to you the other day if I was the owner now. I pull him into the office and I say, why picking Luke Shaw? Why picking Delo all the time? And why putting Bruno in the midfield? And if I don't like those answers, I ain't giving you 300 million. So it's not an easy yes for me. I think if I'm the owner of Man United, I ain't fucking about. I ain't got time to mess about. I want to do what Todd Bowley's done. I want to go in and make changes quick. We've got no time to lose, and I want to be relentless. And my manager's got to be in the same vision as me. If I own the football club and I'm representing the fans, then I can't go with a maybe. I've got to go with someone I'm in tune with. And I don't like 3-4-3. I don't like 3-4-3. I defend it because the formation's not the problem. And I don't want to sack Amorim because he plays a 3-4-3. But you know me, I like 4-3-3. You know, I'm a traditionalist. But that wouldn't be a reason to get rid of him. But it wouldn't be it might be a reason to get rid of him if I don't like the team he's picking. So I'd have to have a chat with him. I'd have to understand why he's picking Bruno in the midfield. I couldn't be the owner of Man United and say I'm backing Amorim, because most of you would go, he's a shit owner. He was slagging him off for picking Bruno in the midfield. So, who's the best English goalkeeper to ever play for United, says Lewis. Well, in my lifetime, I'm struggling for an English goalkeeper because, you know, probably Les Sealey, if I'm being completely honest, because of the FA Cup final in 1990. But in our whole time, in our whole history, I don't know. Stepney, probably. Was he English? But, I mean, it's way before my time. Sad day, my country just lost its World Cup qualifier. We're 90% out, 98% out, says Forza. I presume your country's Oman because it says Forza Oman. Unlucky, mate. Hope you're doing well. Daniel Thompson says, hope you're well, Mark. United Stand, great shows as always. I've loved it tonight. It's always nice to get different variety. I saw Gakpo talking about how he thought he might have been coming to Man United, but we went for Anthony. I think we wanted both in that summer, and obviously he signed for Liverpool in the January. Boo-hoo. These things happen. Good question, Visco, about Amrim. Did we sign Debo from Senegal, says Emil? No, I saw Fabrizio was on about it again today. We haven't got him yet, though. Island Boy says, Amrim goes to sleep whispering, I will not play another Pratt man, Batman. Bet he's over the moon having him out. Don't care how well he's doing. Thank you very much, pal. I'm struggling a bit with my... well, if you were here for the first few seconds, you'll know what I'm talking about. Went out for a meal and it's repeating on me a little bit. Could be anything. Had a lot of rich food. Had venison as the main. And then I had Jamaican ginger cake for the pudding with a rum custard and a glass of red. It's very rich food. Hi, Mark. Love the show. I appreciate what you do for the community, says Guillermo. Well, only works with the community, so thank you very much, everybody. Joshua's just subscribed. Thank you, pal. You reckon 10 Mark Goldbridges can beat up The Rock, says Dylan. I'd watch it. I'd have a bloody good go, but I think I would, because I'd be committed. I wouldn't go into it half-hearted. And if we lose, we lose, which is a bit unlike Man United. I like venison, Rob Always United. I do like venison. Look away if you're Bambi FC, but I do like it. Gout to follow. It is very much gout food, fish and chips. Definitely, definitely. Stephen says, perfect answer on Amrim, and it's exactly what Sir Jim should be doing as well. I just think if you're owning a football club, you have to ask questions of your manager and not be in awe of them. If I was Sir Jim Radcliffe, I would be asking Ruben Amrim, what is he doing with Bruno Fernandes and playing him in the midfield? And if you come out of that meeting and you've been persuaded, you probably shouldn't be the manager of Man United. Shouldn't be the owner of Man United, because I would not be convinced by it. I'd be like, this is just not going to work. When last did you have Jamaican ginger cakes, Parker? Literally just had some. Hi, Mark. If there is a Saudi takeover, won't we share similar transfer problems like Newcastle, says Linford? Well, there won't be a Saudi takeover because Saudi own Newcastle, but there won't be... I think what you're alluding to is that Newcastle struggle to spend money. But no, Newcastle struggle to spend money like Aston Villa struggle to spend money because they don't have the revenue streams. And they can't manipulate them because of, obviously, FFP and what's happened with Man City. So Newcastle traditionally don't make the revenue of Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United. So if you don't make the revenue, it's hard to get money in, even if you're rich. Man United would not struggle to get money in if they had rich owners because we have high revenue. So once the debt's gone, it's even better. Thank you very much. Nick P. Nick P says, just to say about price manipulation, there's a big difference between that and pure speculation. Both can move the price in different ways. Thank you, Nick. And Linford says, hi, Mark. If there is a Saudi take... I've done that one, haven't I, from Linford? Sorry, literally just did that one. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, but I don't think it was appropriate to mention... I haven't mentioned that. I don't think I mentioned that name, and I didn't know who it was. I did Google it, but I don't think I mentioned the name. I know who it is now. Full sale with debt cleared. No PSR issues. Man United revenue is still top. Do we have a quantity over quality problem in our teams, is Abdullah? Oh, absolutely. 100%. I literally said it a few minutes ago. We don't have... we have a very big squad, but we don't have a very good first 11. How is it that Man United have got a massive squad, but we've got a midfield that, well, look, I'll argue this with anyone. Spurs, Newcastle, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal have a better midfield than us. So that's 6 teams already. So we've got a big squad, but we don't even have a midfield that's good enough to beat the top 6. So Michael Schofield says Qatar or UAE. I think this is a very important question, by the way. And yes, it's hypothetical. Am I bothered if we're owned by the Middle East? Yeah, I am. I am bothered by it. But fortunately, I went down this road 3 years ago. I am not comfortable with that ownership. And I've criticised Man City for it. And I've criticised Newcastle for it. And not just for the obvious reasons, but also because, you know, there is something about that type of investment that feels a little bit open to ridicule. You know, it's a little bit easy. PSG have got it as well. So we've had this conversation with Qatar. And I understand, like, why certain people are more comfortable with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because he's British, he's from Manchester, he's a local lad. But I prefer to flip the question like this. It's what they represent. Whether it's Middle East, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Elon Musk, Amazon, Apple, it's what they represent. And they represent what Manchester United absolutely needs. We're not in a position where we can be picky. Beggars can't be choosers. Man United need a hard reset, and they need a lot of money going in to clear the debt, which can legally be done. It's got nothing to do with FFP, clearing the debt. And we need a lot of money investing into the club. And if Qatar or the UAE are the only horse in that race, I believe you have to pick it. Because beggars can't be choosers. It's not really about where the money's coming from. I'm not comfortable with some of the iterations. Of course I'm not. But I believe we need that reset. So in the Sir Jim in bed with the Glazers or Qatar conversation, I would have took the Qatar situation because I think that represents what's needed to be done. I'm not saying it's easy to go down that road. I'm not saying it's not without debate. But it's what, you know, do I want Man United to win titles again in my lifetime? Yes. I don't see it happening in this current regime, unfortunately. I don't. Raz says, have you heard the news about Arsenal trying to poach JJ Gabriel? They wouldn't be the only one. Lots of people are trying to do it. John Walker says, serious question. Have you ever had pink boots? I haven't got pink boots, but I have got pink Adidas trainers somewhere. If I put $1 billion in, I'd have some questions. Proves Jim doesn't know football. Manager just needs a couple of guiders, says Stephen Banham. And Anwar says, I think we should go for Frank Kessie. He runs a lot, got the intensity Arim needs in midfield, says Anwar. Where is he now, Kessie? I mean, I did used to like him, but I don't know whether he is now. Would you ever come to South Africa? You have a big fan base here and everything is cheap. I want to go to South Africa. I want to go India. I want to go Australia. I loved America when I was in New York. Yeah, I definitely want to get out and about, traveling more, definitely. Bin says, I've just joined. Look forward to your response in the future. Thank you very much, pal. Kessie's in Saudi as well at the moment, according to the chat. Abdullah says, if you could go to the past and change one thing in Amrin's managerial career, what is it? I mean, that's a very difficult question because Amrin's been here for such a short period of time. If I could change one thing, it probably would be, and you said I can't, it probably would be the Bruno sale. I think that could have been really interesting. Because I think if I said buying a midfielder, he'd still play Bruno in the midfield with them. So I do think that the sale of Bruno is probably the thing I would have... It's the biggest thing. Signing a midfielder or a right wing back or an experienced goalkeeper, you might go for those, but they're not as big as selling Bruno and using that money. I think I would like to have gone down that path if I could change it just to see what happens. Could have been worse. Gabriel's just gifted 5 memberships. You're a legend, mates. Thank you very much. And United Nick says, do you think United will get kept for the games after the next international break? An easier run of games on paper, regardless of what happens before. I don't think they are easier. games, to be fair. The next 4 are difficult. I don't think they're going to go the way people think they are. Liverpool away, Brighton at home, Forest away, Spurs away. But then you come back and you've got Everton at home, which I think they'll be competitive. Palace away will be competitive. West Ham at home and then Wolves away. They're the sort of games that worry me, to be honest. And then we've got Bournemouth at home and Villa away. I don't know about you. I don't think there are any easy games in the Premier League. I think you've got to expect to beat Sunderland and Burnley and Leeds at home because they're newly promoted. But beyond that, yeah, okay, I'd expect to beat West Ham and Everton and Wolves at home. But it wouldn't shock me if we didn't. I think the Premier League is very, very, very competitive now. And look, we've got fucking three away games in our next 4. I guarantee you we will definitely have a week in the next 4 weeks where it's the pressure to sack him again. You know it's coming. Remember Grimsby, says Mark as well. Do you think Amrin will get... Yeah, thank you very much for done that one. Okay, 9 o'clock. I'm going to go and watch a film. Really enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, as always. Absolute legends. I am back on the show tomorrow. What we're back on tomorrow? We've got, 10 o'clock show tomorrow, haven't we? So, lovely stuff. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Take care. Stay safe. I'll speak to you on the next one.